Hi guys. So this is a book that I want to read called Princesses Are Not Quitters. It's written by Kate Lum and it's illustrated by Sue Hellard. So you can see it's really fun, cute princesses, very fancy hairdos. Once there were 3 princesses, Princess Allie, Princess Mellie, and Princess Libby. And they lived in a huge silver palace by the sea, with roses all around. One morning, they were sitting in the garden having breakfast when Princess Allie threw her toast on the ground. "Oh, I am so bored," she cried. "Being princess is the dullest thing ever." Just then, 3 servant girls walked by, carrying buckets of milk from the palace dairy. "Just look at them," sighed Princess Libby. "Servants have all the fun." "Out in the fresh air doing interesting things," said Princess Mellie. Princess Allie jumped up, spilling her tea. "Servant girls, come here at once," she cried. The servants dropped their milk and rushed over. "Give us those things you have on," ordered Princess Allie. "Put on our dresses instead. Now you can sit in the garden all day. Ha!" The servant girls stared, but they did not argue. They put on the silk dresses. The princesses put on their rags and ran to the kitchen. "Now, Mrs. Blue," said Allie to the housekeeper, "today we princesses are going to be servants. From now until midnight, we want to be treated just like servants." "Oh, ma'am, yes, you're princesses," stammered Mrs. Blue. "But do you think it's a good idea, ma'am?" "No arguing, Mrs. Blue," said Libby. So Mrs. Blue didn't argue. "Well," she said, "if you are servants, you're terribly late. Work began 4 hours ago, and you haven't done a thing." "We're ready, Mrs. Blue," cried the princesses. "Very well," said Mrs. Blue, and she gave them a list of jobs. "What fun, Mrs. Blue," cried the princesses, and they ran off to work. They had to sweep the floors and whitewash the walls, dust the ceiling free of webs, and polish the windows and scrub the pots, and then go outside and sweep the path and weed the garden and scrub the fountains and feed the hens and pick the cabbages for lunch and, wait for it, wash the dogs and comb the cats. Very soon, Princess Mellie's back was sore, Princess Allie's hands were sore, and Princess Libby's feet were sore. But they didn't want anyone to say that princesses are quitters, so they kept on working. Some of the jobs they couldn't do very well. At last, however, they finished them all and shuffled to the kitchen to find Mrs. Blue. "We're all finished, Mrs. Blue," they panted. "We're ready for lunch." "Lunch?" cried Mrs. Blue. "Lunch? Lunch was over an hour ago. There isn't a crumb to be had, I'm afraid, and you're late with your afternoon work." "Afternoon work?" groaned the princesses. "Well, of course," said Mrs. Blue, as she gave them another list of jobs. This sounded like a lot of work to the princesses, but they didn't want anyone to say that princesses are quitters, so they hobbled outside and began. They had to churn the butter and drain the butter and mold the butter into pats, and every pat had to bear the crown to show that it's the royal kind. And then they had to make the cheese and pick the fruit and sweep the halls and bring the water and knead the bread dough and peel the carrots and shear the sheep. Some of the jobs they couldn't do very well. By the time they were finished, it was dark, and they staggered inside to find Mrs. Blue. "We're finished, Mrs. Blue," they puffed. "We'd like our dinners now." "Dinner?" said Mrs. Blue. "Dinner? Dinner was eaten 2 hours ago. There is none left, and you haven't started your evening chores." "Evening chores?" cried the princesses. "Well, yes," said Mrs. Blue, and she gave them yet more jobs. The princesses were too tired to move, but they didn't want anyone to say that princesses are quitters. So they heaved themselves up and they dragged themselves out, and they did all of the jobs that Mrs. Blue had listed. They had to scrub the pots, shine the dishes, throw the water out the door, and wipe the cups, and bake the bread, and peel the fruit for morning pie. And then they had to milk the cows, and feed them hay, and get the eggs, and feed the chickens, and walk the dogs, and pet the cats, and lock the windows, and snuff the lights. By the time they had finished, it was midnight. Mrs. Blue had gone to bed. The princesses dragged themselves up the silver stairs and fell down snoring. The next day, the princesses slept until noon. Then they bathed in tubs of rose water and limped downstairs for breakfast. "Say, I think I made this bread," said Allie. "I peeled the fruit for this pie," said Libby. "I put the crown on this butter. See," said Melly. As they sat there eating, the 3 servant girls walked by. "How sore their backs must be," said Princess Melly. "How sore their hands must be," said Princess Allie. "How sore their feet must be," said Princess Libby. "Proclamation?" cried Princess Allie. "Proclamation," said Libby and Melly. Proclamation means they're going to make a new rule. So they called on their page to blow the silver trumpet, and they climbed the silver stairs to the highest balcony. When all of the people had gathered, Princess Allie declared, "There will now be no new rules for servants in this land. Things cannot go on as they are. There will be new rules, not no new rules. There will be new rules for servants." The servants looked fearfully at each other. "Here are the new rules," cried Princess Libby. "You have to sleep in every day until 9, and work no more than you can do, and rest whenever you are tired, and eat when you are hungry too, and spend an hour every day just sitting in the gardens, and have holidays every year. And let's have fun. From that day to this, you will not find a happier princessdom than this one by the sea. But if you are looking for the princesses, don't try the garden. Try the dairy, the orchard, or the bakery, because princesses are not quitters." The end. That was a good story. I like the princesses. Oh, here's their crest at the very end. I hope you enjoyed it. All right, guys, have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.